Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Under retirement benefit, asset or liability, where you are supposed to explain the kind of scheme you have for your full-time employees. You're supposed to disclose your administrators. You're supposed to disclose your custodians. You're supposed to disclose the percentage salary of an employee, the percentage of an employee's salary that is supposed to be deducted and remitted to the scheme. You are supposed to disclose who did the actuarial valuations, because this is a defined benefit, not a defined contribution. I'm just pointing your attention to that disclosure was not proper. And Auditor General, is that material? Is it a material disclosure on the manner in which they treat the retirement benefit liabilities?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
So it is something that they need to provide precise information on.
Yes, in any case, because it's one of the requirements in that template, they should have given the information as required. Thank you.
Okay. Prof, are you seeing my point? And
yes, I see your point, Mr. Chairman, and I don't see why that information cannot be made available, because the retirees are known, and when they retire, those records are kept by the finance department. So I think given time we can provide that.
Okay, members, yeah, I think I've listened to Senator Dulo, and the need for us to provide timelines and specific questions that the entity should respond to, which we can consider as a committee, or we can ask the auditor to deal with in the 2025-2026 audit cycle. Since a number of the other issues in this report had been dealt with by the County Assembly, and in view of that difficulty in getting proper verifiable records to close some of those non-conformances, perhaps we might need to give the entity some time, if you agree, on specific outstanding issues in the executive report, particularly on pending bills or trade payables, particularly on obligations to staff, the retirement benefits arrangements in Kisumu County, because I think those are serious risks that, Prof, you wouldn't want to leave office and then employees say that their retirement benefits are not accounted for. We have seen cases where even gratuity cannot be paid to outgoing staff because it was being deducted but not remitted. And I think for a governor who's coming to close of term, those two should be very critical things that you look at on a daily basis. How much you owe suppliers, your contingent liabilities or litigation in progress and how it can affect the entity, and what you owe your staff. You should not close this financial year without having clarity on that. Professor Jenda.
Chair, I just wanted to add, I note the issues you have set out for Governor. I think my bigger concern, and I just wanted to note this, Governor, as you exit, that it's a very glaring concern that if you look at your schedule of on-source revenue, for instance, parking fees has gone down from 98,551,263 to 113,548. What is wrong? And number two, property fees. And I know that a lot of properties you have set out, you have leased out to private entities to collect rent, has gone down from 20,447 to 2022 to 6 million. What is happening? Much as you've grown revenue to 2.7 billion, some of those concerns are so glaring, given that market, for instance, you have new markets. Why would you be having, market fees has gone down to 56 million from the 60 million the previous year. I think these are just concerns that are highlights that should be of concern to you as governor as you exit, so that at least we have, clearly some of these financial streams should be going up, given the fact that there are property developments in Kisumu that are live, that are going up. So there's no reason why they are collecting less when last year they were collecting more. There's no reason why there are no cars in Kisumu when I know there are more, and parking fees 113,000 and it was 98 million. Where is the 97 million? Where is this money?
Yeah. Okay, Professor Jenda has gone to the receiver of revenue report. It was part of our agenda for today. I think he was apprehensive that the meeting is ending without us having looked at the ROR. But we'll make one or two comments on ROR before we close, over and above the specific questions that he has fielded. Senator Wambua?
Chair, very briefly on the issue of the executive report, I have just 3 issues because you said we try and shed some light. One, Governor, first things first, you cannot have people preparing your financial statements who are inactive in their profession and they're not in good standing in their own profession. Because, I mean, what do you expect? If you cannot take care of your own professional obligations, then how will you take care of county issues? Whatever administrative action you decide to take on those ones, I will actually I will actually recommend, Chair, that perhaps these two should not prepare those documents that are brought before us because they have put us in a lot of mess. Secondly, on the issue of trade payables, let's have a proper document that is even aged so that we can have a proper engagement on who is it that is owed how much money by the county, what is the payment plan. I had the CC giving us a percentage of achievement of a payment plan. I would rather he gives us an achievement, a percentage of the total owed amount, how much of the total owed amount has been paid and who has been paid for what services delivered. Lastly, Chair, is on the issue of a staff obligation. Now, perhaps this is where we should draw the line. You see, Professor Governor, when I look at the cumulative monies owed to employees from Love Fund and Love Trust, it's almost 500 million Kenyan shillings. And there's no explanation for it. It's just a figure that comes to us. There's no explanation to what's happening and why it is happening. Whatever it is that we do, Governor, and I am praying God that a few months from today, I may be seated where you are seated from Kitui. Whatever it is that we do, let's just be humane. Let's just do. I never understand why any entity, whether county or national, would deduct money from people, and that money at retirement does not help those people. It's actually robbery for those people. That's what it is, and it's not right. I thank you.
Chair, maybe since we are doing in a few, maybe on receiver of revenue, one quick one. I have seen, Governor, the revenue potential of Kisumu. I can see there was an increment in the previous year of 1.5 billion. It went to 2.7 billion in 24-25, up from 23-24, with significant drop that Professor Tom Agenda has alluded to. And it is, you should be able to tell us why that sudden drop in some of those items on this receiver of revenue reports. Number one. Number two, what is the status of the, you know, we did pass F5 Facility Improvement Act. You should tell us whether your systems in the hospitals have been automated. And then finally, the revenue potential of on-source revenue, and I know your people know under CRA, should be 28.2 billion, considering this a city county. But you are only collecting 2.7 billion. What is this massive shortfall of close to 26 billion that we are missing the target? And I know there are many revenue streams that the CRA, Commission of Revenue Allocation, the revenue streams had been maximized. Because, for example, Governor, in conclusion, if, for example, you are seeing parking fees dropping from 98 million. In fact, it dropped from 22-23, it was 99.4 million. In 2023-24, it dropped by 1 million to 98.5 million. But in 2024-2025, it came down to 113,548 shillings. That is a drop of almost 97 million. So in correlation with the biggest figure of 28.2 billion, what do we have to say? Because most of the revenue streams in this year under review have dropped, yet the CRA potential gives you a 28.8 billion. I know they might have overestimated, but the practicability of collecting more than 2.7 billion is very high if all these revenue streams are being properly looked at, and maybe and touch something with FIF. And finally, Chair, because we are on receipt of revenue, there was also the issue of valuation role. What is the status of the valuation role that will assist you to maximize some of these revenue streams so that you can be able to collect more and be able to do some of this payment, including managing whether the wage bill or the trade payables or the pending bills as is known. Chair, and on development expenditure, maybe you can touch something, because I can see you are only doing 17% of development expenditure. What is the basis of this? Because comparing to wage bill, Chair, it stood at 63%, the wage bill, which means there is a significant use on recurrent expenditure. I know under United Nations through the Chair, human capital has been defined as also part of development, but coming from that, what is the basis of this 63% on the wage bill vis-a-vis 17% on development expenditure? So that I know your argument could be you inherited a lot of employees from municipalities that were there, and therefore you could not fire anybody, you had to retain them for some time. But how are you going to handle this? And I hope Professor Ojenda is noting some of these questions, because if he intends to be the governor of Kisumu City County, these are some of the questions that may roll over to the next financial year. Chair, I yield back.
Okay, you've asked questions that cut across the ROR and the executive report. And since Professor Ojenda brought us into the ROR conversation, maybe we start with the ROR ones very quickly. Even though PBO, you want to comment about parking fees as per your analysis?
Chair, the parking fees really not dropped. There was a small mistake.
Yes, yes. Just clarify that, because it's very alarming.
Yes, but I want to bring to the attention of the committee on the selected revenue streams.
No, let's deal with that, because so what's the right amount for parking fees?
It's supposed to be 113,548,551. There was a small error.
Okay, and not 113,000.
Yes.
Okay, so that clarifies that. So now you can comment on the others.
But the Chair, if you look at the budgeted amount and in the next page.
So sorry, Professor Ojenda is bringing my attention to property fees. Is that comparison accurate from 20 million?
Yes, the other one is correct, yeah.
So
apart from the parking fees.
There's no mistake there?
Yes.
And the rest of the lines are okay?
They are okay.
Okay.
The only problem we have is the parking fees.
The parking fees.
Yes, but if Chair, if you go to the next debate on the performance and the budgeted and actual collection, for example, the parking fees, the county budget, the county government has budgeted 612 million, but they have collected only 113. So that's a variance and drop and performance of 499 million. Yes. You see, all these are the key revenue streams that really unperformed.
Even in market fees,
Yes.
they had projected 355 million, but they collected 56 million, 411,998, missing a target of 298 million, 588,012 from the market fees.
Yes.
And even looking at the property fees, they had budgeted to collect 63 million, 844,899. They collected 6.1 million, missing by 57.6 million.
Yes.
Even advertising fee, I thought this is governor, because you had budgeted 400 million, you ended collecting 146 million, missing 253. I thought these are low-hanging fruits, governor, especially advertising.
So I think because we need to make a bit of faster progress, do you have a receiver of revenue? Because all these questions are coming from the report of the receiver of revenue.
We do.
Do we have the receiver of revenue in a substantive position or in an acting position?
Is the acting chief executive of the Kisumu County Revenue Board, and the Public Service Board is recruiting the substantive one. They actually advertised, and I think they're interviewing.
Because the Auditor General has queried lack of a substantive receiver of revenue. The gentleman who was signed here as the receiver of revenue, I think it reads like Nandi David. Nandi David is present?
He's here.
Chairman,
Professor?
There was this other, there was the Makobewa-led, was that the one, the receiver of revenue? The one that was chaired by Dr. Makobewa?
It is the technical staff there.
No.
Yeah.
There was one that was chaired by Dr. Makobewa. What happened to that one? He was chairing an entity, and then he resigned. And there are queries around that. What was that?
That is the Kisumu County Revenue Board. And
So what happened to that board? What happened to that one, to his resignation?
So, Chairman, you need to guide me whether I can take it that way.
No. It's important.
Okay.
I know I'm asking that
Do you...
answer that question.
Order members.
There was a CEO of revenue.
Just a minute. We'll be repeating ourselves. I asked whether there's a receiver of revenue. That receiver of revenue is designated by the County Executive Committee member for finance. So the receiver of revenue can designate collectors of revenue. So that's why I asked the question, do you have a receiver of revenue?
The answer is yes.
And now, Professor has talked about a county revenue board, something like that. Is that a collector or a receiver of revenue?
The County Revenue Board is an entity that oversees, so it's basically an oversight over the receiver in a way, because we have a revenue board just like many other counties, and they supervise the secretariat that actually collects the revenue headed by the receiver. So the board is an authority over the receiver.
So the person designated as a receiver, is that the CEO of the board?
Of the board is the executive.
Is the CEO of the board.
Precisely.
That's a receiver.
But the board resigned. Dr. Makobewa resigned. What was the issue? Around revenue.
So, Chairman, I find this very difficult.
No, it's not difficult. It's not difficult. It's not difficult.
I don't know why Makobewa.
Mr. Chairman, let me come in.
Okay, Professor Nyongo, let's allow Professor Nyongo to respond.
Please, Mr. Chairman, somebody who resigns from his work resigns for a reason. That person should say why he resigned, not me.
And he did, Mr. Chairman. He wrote a letter because he resigned officially and gave his reasons. He said he was pursuing other interests.
Were there
That's what
queries around the revenue?
Mr. Chairman, if there were queries around the revenue in this report or in any other report, including the County Assembly ad hoc committee report on revenue, those are known. I'm not sure those are the reasons Makobewa resigned, beyond what he said in the letter.
Now, Waziri, the queries around revenue are here. So I don't think it is fair to say there are no queries around revenue. They are here. You should have just referred to us, referred us to the Auditor General's report.
Mr. Chairman, what I said was that there are queries around revenue on record, both in this report and also on another report by the County Assembly on revenue. Those are the queries we know.
Chair,
what we are not able to do is to link them to Makuba's resignation.
Fine. Senator Wambua?
Just for the information of Waziri, I heard you saying that you are finding it difficult to respond to certain questions. You do not come here for easy questions. The questions here are supposed to be tough. And the questions being asked here are not personal. There's nothing personal here. He's a public servant who exited office in circumstances that this area senator thinks are linked to financial leakages and audit queries. Respond to those questions. Don't take it personal. They should not be easy. Actually, they should be very difficult.
Okay, I think that's just a point of advice. Senator Adulo?
No, I just wanted to know who is your receiver of revenue.
The Chief Executive of the Revenue Board, currently Mr. Philip Adundo, at that time David Nandi. Both of them are inside here.
So Nandi David is no longer the receiver of revenue.
The current receiver is Philip Adundo, who is also here.
There is also a problem with your ROR statement, and Auditor General should have flagged this. Look at the signatory to the ROR. Is that a member of Cpac? Is an associate member allowed to sign off financial statements? I'm believing that whatever is written there is an associate membership. What does an associate member mean? Daktari from the Treasury. Is an associate member of Cpac allowed to sign off financial statements?
Normally, the associate member is one who has not, meaning does not have the qualifications of an accountant. He has not completed the Cpac, meaning the Certified Public Accounts of Kenya. So he cannot be a member of the Cpac. So it's just allowed to be an associate.
Christian, ESCC?
Yes, I have also checked the database of Cpac, and Maurice Omondi Oyari is not in the database of Cpac.
Why are we having this? Yeah. What is this?
So the problems we are having originate from unqualified persons preparing financial statements. And I think, Governor, you have taken note, and I hope you're going to take necessary action. There is an audit going on for 2025-2026. Auditor, please look at the competence of those signing off financial statements. Because if the right people do it, then we'll have fewer audit issues. Perhaps in the remaining 3 minutes, maybe just ask Professor Nyongo to respond to 2 of the issues that were raised. Maybe a general comment on revenue performance, and then finally on the fiscal responsibility, where 63% of your revenue goes to salaries. 63% is extremely high. Maybe just comment on those 2 issues then before we close this session.
Mr. Chairman, let me first begin by thanking members of this committee for the recommendations they have made out of this statement. Sorry, I have a flu. I think we'll pick them up, definitely. It has been a good discussion. It is good to get people to review what you are doing and see where things go wrong so that you go back and do things right. I think that's very important. Now, 63% of revenue going to what? Mr. Chairman, can you say again? 63% of wages.
Yeah, it goes to wages. 63%, obviously the PFM, which you wrote, requires 35%. You are at 63%.
Yeah, no, you see, counties which are municipalities have a problem. we do have a problem because these people were given terms permanent and pensionable. You can't dismiss them. And quite often they're not good performers. So if you want something performed properly by qualified people, you hire. In the end, you find that you have more people in the payroll than you need. And yet you cannot fire those people that you found there because they are permanent and pensionable, and you can't deny them of their terms of self-service. So I think we go through a period where definitely in counties like ours, Mombasa, Nairobi, and so on, where definitely there will be a higher percentage of revenue going to employees than is necessary. Over time, you can weed out employees as they retire or they transfer themselves to other jobs, but you can't fire them because firing them can take you tremendous court cases that you will pay very highly, as the lawyers here know. So you retain them until they retire. While you retain them, you must bear the burden of a high percentage wages of money going to revenues. That is just a reality.
Mr. Chairman, can
I thought I would hear something about how to fix the problem so that CC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think His Excellency the Governor has explained part of the sources of the problem, but in fixing the problem in Kisumu, one action that has already been undertaken by the national government is the takeover of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital to become a national government parastatal. That is going to be a relief because a huge chunk of the wage bill in Kisumu is actually in the health sector, and a huge chunk of it was actually at JOTRH. So the numbers are going to shift for that reason. But Mr. Chairman, there's also something we need to raise here for the attention of this committee in how those figures are computed, 35, 60, and so on. Because if you talk about 63% in the findings of the Auditor General, that is 63% of actual spending in the year, and then the question is whether the fiscal threshold is on the allocation, which is a budget figure. And we have had this discussion with the Auditor General because they make their finding on the actual spending. The Controller of Budget interprets the allocation on the proposed budget. So I think the calculation needs to be clarified. And finally, Mr.
CC, revenue is defined in the PFM Act.
Yes.
So it's percentage of revenue, not percentage of budget. So that should not be contentious.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your guidance. Finally, on the question of potential, that's another thing that we really need to point out, because the Honorable Senator said correctly that the Commission for Revenue Allocation places our potential at more than 20 billion. Mr. Chairman, and we need help from this committee because we have contested this figure with the Commission for Revenue Allocation to show us, because if you look at that number, it is an outlier in the entire 47 counties. And we have gone with the CRA even into the workings of those figures, and it relates to certain calculations that were made by the CRA in terms of the registration of businesses in Kisumu, which numbers we are questioning, because how is it possible that the CRA number is so different from the National Treasury number, which is 7 billion? So we have gone into a lot of discussions with CRA, because they say, by the way, that out of the 20-something billion they expect Kisumu to collect, about 20 billion should come from SBPs and outdoor advertising. And it is based on a database that they used for business registration in 2013. So this is a problem that I think needs to be corrected.
But Waziri, what is the integrated revenue management system? Because that then, the auditor says that invoices from your integrated revenue management system shows variances between unpaid and paid invoices, and that your system generated invoices of 15 billion. Is that a national government system or that's your county system? The integrated revenue management system, IRMIS.
Mr. Chairman, those have been explained, and we have an entire report where there was multiple generation.
But it's your system.
It's our system. But it's,
so then it needs to be cleaned up.
Yes,
because
and we have cleaned it up.
If the auditor finds you have invoiced 15 billion, then he has no reason to doubt your potential to collect the 20 billion. So you also have some cleaning up to do internally, especially if it is your system. I think, Auditor General, you must continue probing this matter, because what is invoiced should correlate with what is paid. And with accrual, if it was not, if it was invoiced and not paid, doesn't it sit there as a receivable? So now you have receivables of 15 billion coming from your system. And Prof will be handing this over to another governor, and they'll think that he was joking.
I think you're right. We have had a program. We introduced a system, these technologies that are now used for collecting revenue. And the sellers spoke very high of the system. And these were what I call a reputable company. So we started using this system. And after about 2 months or so? More than that, 6 months. We realized that really this system was not solving our problems. I can't go into the details. One of the reasons why we fired the Revenue Board was this, because the Revenue Board was supposed to make sure that this system works. But unfortunately, it wasn't working to our interest. So our experiment failed.
Well, it's humbling to agree that something failed. Politicians don't like accepting that. We shall communicate the specific issues that you still need to address for this committee and advise the Auditor General on matters that they will deal with as substantive issues in 2025-2026. But Prof, please make sure that never again are you questioned about the professional competence of the signatories to your financial statements. That sounds inversely proportional to your reputation.
Chairman, I promise that we shall scrutinize these people that goes into those positions. The problem is that we relied so heavily on the Public Service Board that we didn't want to question their choices. But I don't think they too were wrong. I think people who pretend to be something else cover their route very carefully. But in the end, you find that you are dealing with the wrong person. So we have to be very careful and do checks on people before we hire them.
So to my colleagues who wish to move from the Senate to become governors, you can now see the landmines that you are going to encounter. Any closing remarks?
I was once a senator and a chairman of this committee, so I can please join us in the county government to implement what you've been saying here.
I think that's why you're getting a bit of grace from us. Otherwise, the temperatures would have been slightly higher than they were today. Any matter in closing? I don't know, Prof, whether you had made your closing remarks?
The minister wanted to make some closing remarks on my behalf.
Clarification, just one.
What is it? Clarification?
Yeah, because there was an issue and we just needed to correct the records. David Nandi, who signed the receiver of revenue financial statement, the receiver of revenue report, is actually a member of Cpac number 31821 and is here. So we just have one staff to deal with. It's not both of them. David.
No. If it's a receiver of revenue, there has to be somebody else. It is a report of the receiver of revenue. So there has to be somebody else with the professional responsibility co-signing the financial statement. So his membership cannot validate that financial statement. And please, I meet so many unemployed CPAs in Nairobi, in Isiolo. It does not mean that you must only employ people from Kisumu. There are enough CPAs in this country to do a proper job. So please, the County Public Service Board, I think someone introduced themselves as the chair of that. It is a bad reflection on the city of Kisumu to have associate members of Cpac signing off a financial statement of 2 billion Kenya shillings. And since CEC, you talked of Jaramogi Oginga Teaching Referral Hospital moving to national government, how does it affect your 1.9 billion of hospital fees? Because fine, the staff will move, but the revenue will also move. How much of it was coming from
Chair,
Jaramogi?
because this is a house of record, you also need to remind them that last week we dealt with that matter, and the staff have not been migrated to national government payroll.
So we are still paying them.
You're still paying them?
They have migrated. In fact, there was a whole ceremony about that.
But there was a delay.
Yes.
Okay.
They have migrated, and when they were migrated, they were very happy. They celebrated. They were led by the CEO. So they migrated, and you're right, Mr. Chairman, that it will have an effect on our revenue, but only on the reported figures. But in the actual operations, that effect is almost zero, because in any case, that money was under FIF, ring-fenced for Jaramogi. So it was not flowing to any other areas of spending.
No, of the 1.9 billion, how much was coming from Jaramogi?
About 1 billion shillings.
About 1 billion
Yeah, was coming from Jaramogi. So nominally, the revenue will fall, but actually in terms of money available for spending in other units of government, there will be no effect because that money was not available to other units in the first instance.
That's a technical explanation. Politically, it looks very bad. Politically, it looks very bad because you will then be generating revenue equivalent to Homa Bay County. Yeah? So you guys must figure out a way of managing that communication. We could go on and on, but time will not allow us to go further than this because we still have 3 other meetings, and we shall adjourn the meeting, but the clerk of the Senate will communicate on the information that is required for us to be able to generate a report to the House. County Assembly, we congratulate you for the work you have done. I think you have observed that we are not restricted to the report of the Auditor General. Please also be guided by the financial statements. Ask this kind of questions. Do not allow quacks to prepare financial statements in Kisumu. That's something that you guys can fix at the primary oversight level. Prof, the meeting is adjourned. We wish you safe journey back to Kisumu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Members, I request that since it's already 2 o'clock, we just allow the delegation to exit and then we continue into the next meeting. So in terms of clerks, the